Hello and welcome to our laser crafting live. So if you're joining us live, welcome. You can ask whatever laser questions you have. If you're joining for the replay, welcome as well. In the comment section below, you can ask me questions even if this isn't live, and I'm happy to answer them. So today is all about laser crafting. I do these lives once a month just to craft live and answer your questions because you have questions that I don't get to answer in regular videos. So today I am using the WeCreat Lumos because it was on my craft table. That literally is the only reason. I have several different lasers. If you have questions about other lasers, happy to answer those. But this one was literally just here for some reason. One of the Glowforges, the Spark, is right behind me. So tons of different lasers that I actually have. This one was just handy today. So I thought we would make a project with the laser, talk a little bit about how to use a laser, and answer questions you have about laser crafting. Whether you have a laser or not, you might be interested in laser crafting. I feel like this is a good next step for a lot of people. Might have a Cricut machine, might want to get into thicker projects, engraving, better engraving. The Cricut just scratches the surface. So a better engraving experience, different things like that. And I mean, they're making some really high quality lasers now that obviously aren't very big. This is a good one for my live. And they're getting to price points where they can be fairly affordable for people. So I think a lot of people are jumping in or wanting to jump in and maybe confused about where they should start. So we're going to attempt to answer some of those questions today. And I see several of you tuning in from around the US, it looks like. And Daniel, yes, is here to ask me to make a laser roadmap. I did do a video recently comparing the types of lasers. So if you're interested in that, scroll back on my YouTube channel. So this particular laser, it has a red light as well as a blue light laser. And the blue light laser is a diode laser, and I can cut with it. I made this thing right here with this laser. So I could cut this wood as well as engrave it. This type of laser does really well with engraving, quite frankly. So I use this type of laser more for engraving, but you can cut with them as well. And so variety of engraving things that you can do. But if you want to engrave, I have some colored metal that we can engrave with this blue light. But if you want to engrave metal and it not have any coating on it, that's where you're going to get into a red light laser, an infrared laser, a fiber laser. So you can do deep metal engraving. So the different types of metal engraving. This one that I thought we would make today, it's a coated metal. So it is a metal tag, but it's coated with a coating. And basically I just removed the coating. I just made this with this laser literally 3 minutes ago. It took 19 seconds to engrave with this laser. And great. I'm going to hope. For some reason, I'm going to have to watch the chat on my phone. It was working fine, and now it's not. So I'm going to see if I can still see you chatting away on my phone. It's giving me an error message. Oh, it's back. Maybe it's back. I'm going to hope it's back. Yeah. So Daniel asked about the difference in cutting versus engraving with like the comment maybe cut off Daniel. So Galvo versus, yeah. So Galvo versus gantry style lasers. So two different types of lasers. Galvo versus gantry. And so if you see like a laser that is taller like this, and I always get them mixed up. Then it is going to be a gantry style laser, right? No, Galvo style laser. So this type of laser, if it's tall like this, it's going to be the type of laser. So basically the laser head itself is stationary and the beam moves along the surface. Whereas something like a Glowforge, the whole entire laser head moves across the surface. That means that this laser is small, and it also has a very small, like, workable area. I'm going to give this as an example. So this is what you insert if you want to cut with this laser. And this is basically like the workable area if I don't add anything to this laser. And so like this bookmark was about the maximum size if I don't add the other accessories to this one. So you get a very small area, but this style laser is extremely fast and it's very portable, right? So it's super small. I could take it to a craft fair, be able to like customize on site. When you're talking about the larger lasers, your Glowforges, the xTool S1, whatever, and the whole head moves, then you have a whole bed situation. And while, yes, it makes larger projects, it's also bulkier, takes longer because that whole entire head has to move. So I am getting the comments on my app now. Okay. So I feel like it just depends on what type of laser, what kind of things do you want to make with your laser? So that's the first thing I recommend people think about. Like, what do you want to make with your laser? Do you want to cut and engrave wood? Do you want to do leather? Do you want to do acrylic? And when it comes to acrylic, do I want to do, I have like a little tic-tac-toe game I made here. Do I want to cut and engrave on different colors of acrylic? Or are you going to get into something like clear acrylic where you want to cut and engrave on it? Because a blue light laser will not work for anything clear. Doesn't work. It's just scientifically impossible. So at this point, you have to get into a CO2 laser. So you're talking even more money. So you really need to start your like laser journey as to like what do you want to make? What do you think you want to make now? What do you think you want to make in the future? And then sort of cross-reference that with your budget, because a lot of these lasers are getting more expensive. I did recently review a laser. It made this bookmark on it. It's the FLUX beamo. It's a small CO2 laser, so a bit more affordable for those of you begging me to do clear acrylic. That video was for you. So I have so many projects here, but maybe we'll just make something with this laser so you can kind of see how this version works. All of them work similarly. Like I said, there are differences in the way they work. But overall, each of them has their own software, but it's very similar. I've used the WeCreat software, the xTool software, the FLUX software, very similar. You can also use Lightburn, a little more advanced, but you can go into that with you and use that with a lot of these lasers. Just depends on what you want to do. I do recommend, especially if you're a laser beginner, to use the software. Like this is a WeCreat laser. I would use the WeCreat software, especially if I was a beginner. I feel like getting into a lot of those different softwares is a little more advanced for the beginner user, and it's going to be easier to use your machine with the software like that WeCreat makes. First things first, laser safety. So the first thing is I will only review an enclosed laser, honestly. So you always want to protect your eyes. In this case, this hood is going to protect my eyes. If for some reason I need to operate this laser with this open, I would wear laser safety glasses. I'm not going to do that today because I don't have my laser safety glasses within reach. The next thing would be to vent your laser. You can vent it out a window, or you can use an air filter for indoor use. Either way, you just want to vent the laser itself. And I have this vented over to the side over here. And then third most important thing is to make sure that what you're cutting or what you're engraving is laser safe. So some materials can be toxic when cut or engraved with a laser, and you always want to make sure that you're being safe and using laser ready materials. So those are the three things I always make sure before I get started on any laser projects. Hey, Marta, thank you for joining me live. All right, so I'm gonna like run through a project within WeCreat. We're gonna turn this on. I turned it off on purpose. I'm gonna turn it on and reconnect it. I will probably have time to answer questions while it reconnects, because I was like, I can't have this very, very loud fan running the entire live. So we did this part without the fan running, but we're going to turn this on in a minute. First of all, let's look inside of the WeCreat software. And if you have questions, just ask those as I'm going through this, and I'll come back to where I can see the chat. All right, so WeCreat software. This is the software interface itself, and I've already was working on a project, right? So you can import a file, which is what I did. You could also add text or draw your own shapes or something like that if you wanted to over to the side. I wanted to say this was just like a ping file that you might use for sublimation or something. It was various shades of pink. And I hit this image processing up here, and you can go through this various types of algorithms to get different effects. I liked this threshold effect. I wanted a very stark contrast, black and white, wanted to eliminate this around the edge. And then you can play with a lot of these settings, get this to look exactly how you want it, basically. Because it wasn't an SVG file, it was a ping file. You can upload SVGs to this, and that would be a bit easier, but I wanted to show I could do any sort of image or picture. And that's good to know, especially if you want to engrave a photo of someone or something. I would use that image processing to get it to look how I want it. And then the next thing we're going to do is you would choose red light or blue light. That is not on right now because I have the laser off because of the fan. I am going to engrave this with a blue light because I'm just doing the coating removal. So I showed you it was a metal, but it's a coated metal. So when I click here, you can choose your materials. And this is where a lot of people get tripped up about laser settings. And this is where I feel like this software that comes with your laser makes this super easy because you're just picking from various types of materials here. So I'm going to do a metal. It's a coated metal, and we're going to do a black coated metal for this one. So you would just pick whatever material you're using. And let's see, probably going to have to turn this on now. So I'm going to hide my screen here, and I'm going to turn this on. So that's the next step. It's going to make a loud noise. Be a little bit quieter at this point. So the next step is basically to connect it with your computer. All the lasers I think I have are Bluetooth, so they just connect via the Wi-Fi to my computer. But it does take it a few minutes it's basically booting up. So I did not want to leave this on the entire live, so I had it off. All right, so I'm going to use this black coated tag I bought a while ago. Just the whole pack, and there's different shapes and stuff in it, and I use it a lot to just do various tests. They're very quick and easy projects and inexpensive. So you can also do something like you could do a test grid on here if you wanted to play around with different settings. So lots of options, and I like to use inexpensive blanks for that type of thing. All right, so all right, we are all hooked up. Let me show my screen again. And then we'll get close and personal with this laser. All right, so now you can see that I have blue light picked. I have metal coated black here. So I'm going to put the tag in the machine, and I can actually, let's do refresh. Confirm. I just wanted to show you, and it disconnected. Hold on. We'll get that back. Okay. Maybe I shouldn't have hit refresh. It might have been too much for the internet right now. Let's switch camera angles here. see. Okay. All right, so I added the tag to the laser, and something that is nice about these lasers is they're very easy to manual focus. You might not be able to see, but there are two dots, a red and a blue dot, and you just make sure those dots overlap. And I'm just using, there's a knob just on the side over here, and I'm just turning that knob to raise and lower the laser head. It does have an autofocus option. I rarely use it. I literally use just the manual focus, and I'm not sure if it saved my project. Okay, well, you know, we're live, so why would it have saved it? Okay. So I'm going to connect the laser again. And apparently start all over. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to re-import my thing. I was not going to walk through this, but I will show you what I did to get it the way I had it before. Okay. So I resized it, and then I clicked image processing, and I won't walk through like all the steps because I kind of know at this point. So I went to threshold, and I changed, and I just played with these until it looked the way I wanted it to. All right, so that looks good. I'm gonna click confirm. All right, so again, I'm gonna have to go back through metal, black. All right, now the screen refreshed. So you can see that I can actually see the tag on the screen that I added to the laser, and then I can move this around and get it exactly where I want it. The next thing I can do is to click framing. And let me come over here, and you may not be able to see this. Hopefully you can, but there is a blue box, and it's framing it exactly where it's going to engrave. This is what I love about this style of laser, is because I know exactly where it's going to engrave, and I can verify that, make sure it's straight, make sure it's like perfectly centered up. Then we'll go ahead and close that for safety reasons, and I think we're ready. I'm going to click start in the software, and let me take you back to the software here. So I clicked start within the software. It's going to take 16 seconds to process this, and we can go ahead and send it. And then it's going to tell me to close the lid, and it's going to tell me to click the start button. So I'll click the start button up here, and it is going to very rapidly engrave on this tag. All right, so and that's very, very quick. All right, and it looks really good. Okay, and I always give it a couple of seconds after it finishes engraving, just to make sure it's sucking all the fumes out. So it's sucking them all out of the hose and, you know, out of my space, either through the air filter or through an open window. So I always make sure just to give it a couple of extra seconds, and then we can lift it up. And super cute, all within 16 seconds. Okay, so I am going to, I think I'll turn this off, huh? And I'll show you some more examples. That way it's not so loud. So Bonnie asked, can they be stored in a non-heated space? So I'm going to go through two different things. First of all, I would store them in a climate controlled environment, the laser itself. And also, I mentioned that second point, I mentioned that you can vent out a window. I would not leave the vent out the window all the time. So some people rig up a way where they can leave the vent attached and, you know, it's just the one hole through their window. But what happens is the air between your outside space and your inside space is two different temperatures. And you can get the condensation can come in through the ventilation system and you could get condensation inside here and ruin your laser. So not only would I store it in a climate controlled space, I would make sure, like, when I'm done with this, if I'm venting outside, I would remove my outside vent and not have it connected all the time. And because I have seen that happen to people. So I would say both scenarios, that I would store it somewhere that's climate controlled, as well as not leave that ventilation hooked up to your window all the time. Okay, so that was an example of engraving metal, but of course, like, a laser can do so much more. So I had some laser patches here, but then I realized I've done, apparently I'm obsessed with laser patches lately. So what I wanted to show you is, I mean, you can get, I thought I had a brown one. I do. You can get like brown patches that you could engrave, but there's also tons of colored patches. And this is just an example of a laser blank. They're making a wide variety of laser blanks that are like this. Basically, the under surface is a different color. So like this one, the top surface is black and the inside is silver. So when you engrave this black, you get a silver design. And they're making this in so many different colors. I've kind of been obsessed with doing the patches because they're quick. But you can, this is just an example that I've seen, like pillow covers, I've seen notebook covers, tons of different things where they're doing like a two-tone layered effect, similar to this coated metal. And they're super easy to engrave and get that effect. And then, you know, for this example, I did an image, but you can also just, like a font, just do text right in the software. Makes it super easy. You don't have to have, you know, your file queued up or whatever. And then another favorite of mine that I do a lot on videos, if you watch around here, is slate, because this looks so much better than like an etched slate that I would do with my Cricut machine or something. So this looks so much better. And so I use that a lot with my lasers. And then, of course, like cutting and engraving wood. This situation here is a whole tic-tac-toe game. So I cut and engraved the wood, layered it up, and then acrylic like X's and O's. So tons of different options. And then, of course, like those are small projects. I had those handy. Larger projects as well. Like this is a wood box. So larger projects as well. Even with this style of laser, you can get this disconnects and you can put like this situation on it, use it on larger projects. And then, of course, like if you have a larger laser and the height is big enough, you can put those larger projects in it. And then the second most often thing that I get asked questions about is engraving tumblers. So if you want to get into engraving tumblers, you will need, that's why I have this sitting here. You will need a rotary accessory. So basically something to hold the tumbler and turn it. So this version is for this laser. Literally every laser has a different rotary accessory. I told someone the other day, I have so many rotary accessories within my space. It's kind of crazy. But it is going to depend. Be very careful if you are purchasing a laser to engrave tumblers, like what type of tumbler it'll do. For instance, like this laser, I'm not going to be able to do this big 40-ounce tumbler. I think I did this tumbler with this laser. But I could do like this size, but I couldn't do the big one. So be sure you check all things regarding the rotary accessory if you are going to get a laser with a rotary. you know, what sizes it will do, any restrictions it has, different things like that. Because I feel like a lot of people are a little disappointed when they get their rotary accessory and they wanted it to do the big guys and they can't. So just be careful with that. So this is an example of an engraved tumbler, and it's a similar process to what we just did. So I did this in a mini form with this little coated metal tag. So this is a coated metal tumbler, and in this case, it's coated with black and it's gold underneath. And all I did when I engraved this is I'm removing that top black coating and revealing the gold underneath the tumbler. So it's just a similar process. It's just in a larger scale form, and you need the rotary accessory to turn the tumbler and be able to get around the tumbler itself. This one I didn't do this area. You can actually get a little bit further than I did on this example, but I've been kind of working slowly on a tumbler video and engraving these over time. So I have several different ones and I've just engraved them over time. And then this, I also had these two out for another reason. This is an example. What I showed here was an example of, you know, like I removed the material. It's not just an outline. So this machine doesn't just do outlines like a Cricut machine. If you try to do their engraving, it scratches the surface and just does around the outside edge. Whereas this machine is going to be able to do like the inside, like a true engraving. But you can change those parameters. And this was like one example of that. So I changed those parameters and I just did an outline as another example as I was like working on something. So I changed it and just did an outline of the leaves on this particular tumbler as an example. So you can do it both ways. This obviously takes longer because it has more surface area to engrave away, but this will not take as long. Yes, so the tumblers themselves, like this version of a tumbler, and all my printers pick exactly the live time to do their maintenances, by the way. Like I've had 2 different printers do it. Anyway, certain tumblers, like this version of a tumbler, I have to use a screwdriver and remove these handles and bend these tabs down in order to make it work with the laser and not hit the laser head. Very important. Don't want to hit the laser head with the tabs that are holding this on. I will say that experimenting with a lot of tumblers, MakerFlow makes a version that the handle screws on the top. So it's flat-sided, way easier to engrave. I think Corey George has a video on those. I do not, at least yet. But that is an easier way to do these. And you'll see, like, I was experimenting with this one and seeing how close I could get, because you don't want to also, the tabs are there, like even after I remove this handle. So like you'll still have an area that you won't be able to get where those you could do a true full 360. Okay, so any more questions about lasers, or we can do another project. I have several other things here. Could do like something that's already assembled here. So I can put that same design. So this was like a coated metal situation. I'm going to put that same design on something that's already like assembled. This is a small example, so I can quickly do it on the live, but you can do this with, with like cutting boards that are already made, or, you know, things that are already assembled. This box is another example. Like it was already, you know, a fully formed box and I engraved on it. So yes, you can engrave on a variety of things that are already made. So walking around the store is interesting because I'm always like, okay, what do I want to try to engrave? All right, I'm going to turn that on again and connect it. And when you start, like I'm starting this wood project, it's way thicker. So you always want to make sure that you do your focus, because the focus is going to be completely different at this point. And this is not laying exactly flat. What I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on the center. This area will probably be a little bit higher, this area a little bit lower, but I'm going to do it, try to do it as close to the center as I can and focus on that area. And then I'm going to repeat the same steps within the software again as soon as this laser boots up and allows me to do that. And I will not hit the refresh button this time and make the program crash, which is apparently what happened last time. Okay, any other questions that you have about lasers or anything else you would like to see me do within this live? Feel free to drop those in the comment section. Happy to do those. I do have a variety of things, or there are other things around here I can just go get. And I will. So I was talking about on the keychain how it's not exactly level. Same situation you're going to run into with things like this. So this one I did pretty good on it. But you can see like this, the height of this surface is going to be way less than the height of this surface. This is not as an extreme example, but this height and this height are going to be different. So you can put this on here and you could focus somewhere in the middle, or some rotary tools. This one, we might be able to do it with this one. What we could do is put something, experiment with putting something under this side, making this more level, if that makes sense. And then your tumbler will turn out better because it's not so far, so too close to the laser on this side and too far away on this side. So anything you can do to make this as level as possible is going to help the situation when you engrave. And all of these, I did not pick it up. It's in a box over there, but most of the rotary accessories come with a little level, and you just use a little level to make sure that it is level. I could also, let me switch. I could use that same, sort of idea with this, and I could put just something really thin under this end over here and make this a bit more level within the machine, and then refocus it. And now hopefully I'll get a better engraving result, if that makes sense. All right, so I'm going to close that, and I'm going to try to connect the laser over here. All right, so the laser looks like it's ready to go. I'm going to, let me switch back to this. There we go. Maybe, yeah. All right, so I'm going to change this. And so here we're just going to have to kind of guess what kind of wood we have, because this is a random keychain I picked up. I don't know where. So I'm going to say, let's go with this basswood, a thick basswood. And it auto-focused when I did that, and I'm going to change that focus a bit. And now I can see it within the software. I'm going to move that around, might make it a little larger. And then I can frame that. And again, I could move the actual piece and make sure that everything is straight, everything looks good, and then close that down. And now I'm going to say that I'm pretty good here for engraving. So I'm going to click start. And it's going to take 24 seconds. So sounds good. I'm going to go ahead and send that. Again, it's going to tell me to close this and click the button at the top, and we'll go ahead and do that and engrave this super, super quick again. Good question, Daniel. So Daniel asked, when would you choose laser over UV printing on something like the UV? Probably depends on possibly I'm going to look at this. Okay, I like the result. I was going to, I'm going to turn this off real quick. I was going to show you that you could kind of resend it and go over the same area if you needed to. So that's another trick. If you're like not sure of your settings and you're like, that doesn't look how I like it to. If you don't touch anything and send it over again, it'll go over the same area. If you don't move anything in the software, don't move anything in the laser. So it's another trick. But actually this one looks fine. So I'm just going to go ahead and take it out. So I like the look of that one. So super cute. So I would probably UV print on it if I wanted a color. So if I just wanted this design in black, I would probably just do the laser, maybe up the settings a little bit to get this a little darker. But if I wanted it, this file is actually originally a file that is shades of pink. So it's a dark pink and a light pink. If I wanted to keep that original look to it, then I would run to my UV printer. I would run to my UV Make and print on this instead. This is actually a blank, Daniel, that I had up there beside that UV printer. And I think this same technique would work where I would use something underneath it, because with the UV printer, it needs to be really flat. So something like this isn't going to work in the UV printer. But with something like this, I could use the same sort of technique and raise one side. So I could do that and print on it. So again, if it wasn't something that was flat, then I wouldn't use the UV printer. And a lot of my lasers, I can go thicker than the UV printer would go. So I would use them for that thicker item as well, probably. All right, so we made a couple of projects like these. I was like, I'm going to pick small blanks so it will go super fast. So this one's 16 seconds and this one was 24. So super, super quick making projects with a laser. Of course, the larger you get, like I'm pretty sure. So this tumbler, it wasn't made with this particular laser. It was made with a different laser. But I think it took well over an hour, maybe like an hour and a half. So the larger you get as well, the longer it will take to do these. And then this example, like the more you remove. So I did the full engrave on this tumbler. If I just did the outlines, it would take less time. And that's where I was doing this tumbler that I added to the rotary. When I did this tumbler, I was playing around with like, how can I take time off? And doing an outline is a way to take time off, but it gives it a completely different look, right? So a lot of these will be a very long time frame, depending on the laser you're using, the file you're using, the design, all of those type of factors. So in the description below this video, I have links to tons of videos on various lasers. If you are in the market for a laser, feel free to ask me, like, what type of laser should I get? Leave me, like, in the comment, leave me what you want to make. What do you want to engrave on? What do you want to cut? The size of the things you want to make. Do you want to make tumblers? Like, leave me all those details and I will kind of point you in the right direction of where to look. But I would never ever recommend investing in a laser off of a very short video where I made like 2 really small projects, unless you're just going to make keychains. I do recommend going to my longer videos on the lasers, watching those, making sure that you like what it does in those longer videos. You like, is it an easy setup? Is it confusing? What does the software look like? You need to know all of those details before you decide on which laser's for you and which one to invest in, because they are all an investment, right? So be sure to do your research before you invest in any laser. But hopefully this showed you that you can make super cute projects. I recommend these lasers a lot. There's this version. xTool makes an F1, they make an F1 Ultra. I think there's an F2 now. But small projects and being able to customize them, like at a craft fair, this has a handle, you can just carry it. And being able to just add a name to a keychain at a craft fair. Like, I recommend these all the time for that, because you saw just how quick these keychains were to make. And you could do that at a craft fair if you have like power and the right supplies and that type of thing. So I highly recommend these to a lot of people for that type of application. And this type of laser is also, I thought it'd be good to show today, because I think it's really good for beginners in a lot of ways. They're easy to use, obviously, and it's quick. And yes, it's a small surface area, but there's so many projects that you can do with it. So hopefully this helped you if you're thinking about laser crafting, or you just wanted to see what a laser would do. Hopefully this helped you. If you have any questions and this is not live, feel free to drop down in the comment section. Ask me anything you would like about laser crafting. I'll point you in the right direction. Or you can tell me what you want to make with a laser, and I will point you in the right direction as far as like more research to do and what lasers to look into. So hopefully this helped you, and I will see you next month with another fun live video where we craft live together. So see you all next month.